Oh baby, everybody, and we're back. Welcome back to Words with Wayman. I'm your host, as always, Matt Wayman. Thank you for joining us. Support us on the interwebs, on Twitter at Words with Wayman, Facebook Words with Wayman. We are back with a sweet and spicy part 2 with St. Louis comedian and show producer Max Price. Thank you so much for coming out.
Happy to be here.
And we were talking on the first one. We were talking about kind of like how you got started in comedy and how you are a show producer out at the Funny Bone. I want to get a little bit more into the nuts and bolts of the comedy stuff, so I want to throw this one to you right out the gate. How do you write your comedy?
It has changed over time. When I first started, I just wanted to be Daniel Tosh, really.
Everybody starts wanting to be somebody.
Exactly, yeah. That's how everybody starts wanting to be whoever they admire. And funny enough, before I started comedy and kind of knew what really good comedy was, I thought Daniel Tosh and Dane Cook were just tops. I thought they were the best.
I love Tosh.
and I still do like his old Tosh, like his very first special, like when he was just a comedy album was just True Stories I Made Up. I did actually give that a listen again, probably like a year ago, and I actually was like, man, this was actually really good. But I feel like now I just,
definitely.
now it's just like but obviously, I mean, not a Dane Cook fan anymore. But
some of Dane Cook's early stuff was really good, but a lot of the stuff when these people were just starting out and still super hungry, didn't have all of the cash. It is a complete difference.
I think the problem with comics like that is that they. When they first start out, there's a certain small thing about them that people get attracted to, and that makes people love them, and then they try to overdo that piece of their material that everybody seems to like, and they make their entire like for instance, like when he first started out, people really liked how eccentric Dane Cook was and how he really acted out his material, and then like the last couple of specials, I mean, he's just practically throwing himself across the stage, and it's just like
trying too hard.
Yeah, it's like you're like don't over exemplify that piece, that people loved about you, keep it subtle.
Yeah.
And then Daniel Tosh, people liked how he was kind of a bit of a douchebag, and he had that like he did a great job.
Lovable douchebag.
Exactly. He did a great job of like having that kind of like I'm better than you vibe, but not like throwing it in your face. And then his last special, it was like 80% of his jokes were like, I'm better than you, I'm richer than you, and here's why. And it's like, man,
they become caricatures of themselves.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. But I mean, who am I really to be judging these comics who are famous and doing a great job? But I just think that's in my own opinion, that's what happens. But anyway, so I started out. I mean, of course, I will say this: if it wasn't for Dane Cook and Daniel Tosh, I mean, who knows if I would be doing comedy, because they were two people who inspired me to even do it in the first place. So I will always have that admiration for them in that perspective. But so when I first started out, I just want to be Daniel Tosh, and I didn't really talk about myself and my life really. I just kind of made these just trash misogynistic jokes, and people in the scene hated me right off the gate.
A lot of people start that way,
Right, exactly. And that's kind of what I meant like back in the first part about like take a step back, kind of realize what you're doing, and kind of like how the scene works. That's a mistake I made, but I started out just trying to be another comic, and you just can't do that. And once I started to find my voice, really, I realized how much more, not only more fun, but how much better I did at just actually putting my own life and my own self and truth into my jokes. And now I really just write about my actual life, and I just take true stories that have happened to me and put it out in my set, and then it really feels like I'm in my material.
Yeah, it makes you be able to sell it better. It makes you more connected to your own material.
And that's what I was going to get at, is that you connect with an audience way easier when it's not only relatable, but they feel that you're actually being real about.
I think they're more fun to tell too, as yourself, and the audience definitely relates to that too.
Definitely, yeah. And that's one thing being a parent definitely did for me was I think that's one thing that helped me was that I automatically connect with a younger crowd just by being young, but I'm also able to relate to and connect with an older crowd because I talk about being a parent.
Yeah.
And most older people are parents.
That's a cool thing about St. Louis, too, because when you're mainly doing the Funny Bone, it is going to be kind of a lot of times an older crowd as opposed to some other cities. Like Denver, when I was living out there, it was like you're mainly getting a younger crowd. You're mainly getting 20 to 24.
Right.
As opposed to like 20 all the way up to 60.
And I've noticed what the funny thing is that when I first started, I really only appealed to and could make laugh people my age, like that 20 to 24 range. And as I go on and the high majority of my jokes end up being about being a parent, I feel like I do better with the older crowds now than I do with the younger crowds because a lot of crowds that come in that are my age aren't parents.
Yeah.
And they don't understand what I'm really talking about being a parent, you know?
Yet.
And then I as I started doing shows at the Funny Bone, especially, you know, the early weekend shows, you know, like you said, you get those older crowds, those between 35 and 50, you know, people, and pretty much all of them have kids and understand being a parent, you know, and the hardships and struggles that come along with being a parent, and that's what I talk about a lot. Too. And then I ended up starting to appeal to them more than anyone. So it's really funny how that changes.
Totally changes.
But I really started changing how I wrote in the sense that now instead of just making random, you know, either one-liners or just about just stories that absolutely weren't true at all, you know.
Yeah.
Which is really, it's so much harder to sell because a lot of times, even if it sounds like something that really could happen, people can just tell that it didn't happen to you.
So how do you do that? Do you take a joke? Do you just write the story out and then throw punchlines into it and try it on stage? Or?
I'm lucky enough to, as a parent, have a lot of funny things happen to me.
Yeah.
And a lot of times a lot of my jokes are me just telling true things or funny things that have happened with my kid and then just over-exaggerating it just a tad, enough for it to be real, but not so much that, you know, people think I'm just completely...
It's got to be exceptional, kind of, you know? Like, it has to be over-exaggerated a little bit, or else it's you just trying to tell a story.
Exactly. In that sense, it's basically, you know, if you're not over-exaggerating a bit or at least putting some, you know, different... different little things in there, or, you know, just a slight fabrication, you know, then it's like it's just something that, you know, just something you would tell at a dinner party, you know, around the table or something, you know, and you have to have that for, you know, a stage, is that slight fabrication to just about anything.
You're absolutely right.
And so now I really just take funny things that happen to me as a parent, and I kind of, I'll jot down, you know, if I think of something, you know, I'll kind of jot it down. And then when I get time, the one thing that I always feel like has held me back as a writer is how picky I am about my writing process, about like having the right environment and space. Unfortunately, for myself, I feel like I really can't focus on my writing unless, like, it always has to be late at night. It has to be dead silent, no distractions whatsoever, and that's really hard with roommates. Sometimes when, you know, I really want to get on a good writing session, if nothing that funny has happened to me lately, I'll think about things of my past, my childhood. I'll think of, you know, I'll try to think of funny things that have happened to me in the future. And you know, I do have a lot to write about. I've had a lot of crazy things happen to me in my life, you know, living all over the country.
Of course.
One thing that I'll tell you right now, I've literally been working on the same premise to a joke for about little over a year, and still because when I was 16, I was paralyzed for 6 months.
Whoa.
And I came very close to dying.
Damn.
And it's
a hot premise right there.
Exactly. And the thing is that there is an insane struggle to talk about that time of my life and make it funnier than it is depressing.
Seriously.
And like I really have like some funny parts about it, but like I've literally rewritten the same story and joke that I have. Like
you'll know when it's there too.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I'll know, and like every time that I rewrite it, I feel like it's better. But I still feel like I can do better before I really bring it out there. But there's like, because especially once you've connected with an audience, like sometimes they'll take something that if you try to take a dark situation and make it funny, the problem is that most of my jokes, I'm really not doing that. And so to throw a really dark premise,
really funny.
a really dark premise into because my comedy is very lighthearted. It's not it's not clean, super clean by the most. I mean, it's not like really, my material's not really dirty, but it's not squeaky clean, but it's still very lighthearted.
Yeah.
My jokes are very I don't insult anyone or anything. I don't take a hard stance on anything. It's not polarizing, and it's not dark or evil in any way. And so to put a very dark and depressing premise in there has to be done a very, very short way. And my whole point is trying to turn this into a very lighthearted situation.
Yeah.
And like I want to try to come across as like, I can't just like come out and be like, by the way, don't feel bad for me.
Yeah.
Just like laugh at it.
I'm
but
fine.
Like exactly. Like I'm fine. Like I'm fine now. But the joke basically just has to do with me taking quite a spill down a flight of elevator stairs when I was paralyzed. Because the thing is that it happened very gradually. I had a autoimmune condition, kind of like fibromyalgia.
Okay.
And it's in remission now. I'm fine. Probably will be fine for the rest of my life. But during that time, it happened gradually. And so before I was just confined to my bed for a certain amount of time, I was still going out and trying to go out and do things. But while I was still very slow and, needed things to help me walk, and basically when it was getting close to the point that I needed to just like stay home, but wasn't quite there yet, there was an incident where I fell down a flight of elevator stairs.
Escalator stairs, is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
no, you're fine.
Yeah,
I was trying to figure it out.
No.
Elevator stairs.
Thank you for correcting me. That sounds very stupid. Okay.
I knew exactly what you meant.
Exactly, escalator stairs. I fell down a flight of escalator stairs.
Like how did
you
fall down?
And at the time, obviously, it was terrible. But in hindsight, it was hilarious.
So you're kind of the Forrest Gump of comedy in a way. I mean, in a little bit. You could be
just for that like 6 months, and just for that one bit. And it is, I mean, it's one of those things, like, if told right, I mean, it could be a
career defining.
bit. I don't know, career defining, but it could.
You don't want to rush it.
You could bring really think you could bring the house down, but it's like you have to. With dark, depressing things, you really have to go about it in the right way, and I have to make it fit into a light-hearted set,
Yeah.
And so I've been working on that for such a long time. That's the thing, is that like people don't realize is that sometimes they'll see jokes and they don't realize that comics have been working on it for
a long
time. Just one
time.
bit that's just a couple minutes long, but they've been working on it for years. Because there's you will just
take one word out.
Exactly. You'll trim the fat and you'll reword it and you'll restructure it, and there's so many different things you can do with a joke.
So that's a good one. So how much time would you say that you have?
I think I could do a solid 25.
Nice. What do you want out of comedy? Like if what do you want out of this whole thing that we put all of our time into?
That's a good question. I think there's multiple ways to answer that. In the short run, I just want to get better. Really,
yeah.
I'm just working on perfecting my craft. No matter how good you are, you still have so much to learn.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Especially at our level, we still have so much to learn. And I love learning every step of the way. I'm really happy. One thing it's a weird way to say it. I pride myself in not being prideful, in not being a comic that can't take constructive criticism. I love getting especially from comics that I know to be above me. I've gotten amazing constructive criticism from Josh Arnold,
nice,
from Joe Murray, Charlie Winfrey,
St.
Andrew
Louis guys, check them out.
Frank,
yeah,
and who are all comics that have really became a staple in St. Louis, and I was really lucky to have as mentors starting out, and helped me a lot. And I love taking constructive because it's always helped me. It really has. And I love just what I'm doing in building up a set and learning to write better and networking, and especially with running the
it's
showcase.
A lot, yeah. A lot of people
showcase.
You have to focus on material. You have to focus on relationships that you foster with other comedians. There's so much stuff that you have to do in this comic.
There really is. There's so much, and and right now, that's all I really want to do. I just want to do whatever it takes to make myself better. Of course, as anyone doing comedy wants in the long run, I'd love to make a career out of it. I'd love to, be doing it for the rest of my life. But right now, really, I'm just thinking about the short run. Right now, I'm still at an MC level. Whenever I do shows out of town, one night only, one night shows, I often feature.
Nice.
But my goal right now is hopefully by the end of the summer, but at least in the year 2017, I want to be a regular use feature at my home club.
Nice.
And that's something that I haven't even asked about or even attempted to, because I know I'm not there yet. That's one thing I do. I'll surprise myself is kind of knowing where I'm at. Not being too far ahead of myself, but also not being, thinking I'm a piece of shit. Kind of
for sure.
Thing. So that's one thing that I'm just working on, getting a perfect, for me, solid 25 minutes.
Nice.
I just gonna keep working, and I just want to be the best comic and writer that I can be at that time. Awesome. Really.
And that's perfect too, as a kind of a place to wrap this thing up. Before we get out of here, where can people find you out on the interweb so people can follow you?
You can follow me on Facebook, just my regular name, Max Price. You can find me on Instagram at Max Price is me, no spaces, no capitals. And then you can find me on Twitter at _MaxiPad.
Nice. And the next Funny Bone showcase that you're putting on is
the next showcase at the Funny Bone that I will be producing is on March 22nd. It will be myself hosting, along with comics Brian McDowell, Bobby Jaycox, and Reggie Edwards. But
nice.
Definitely
a
good
lineup.
One. Yes, very good lineup, and definitely plan to be. As I'm going through the rotation again, I would like to get you back on the show in April.
Heck
so I think that'll be.
Yeah, you've done so much for me, and I just want to say thank you for hooking it up. And
I'm happy to help, man.
Yeah, for coming out and doing the podcast. Support us out there. Words with Wayman on Facebook, Words with Wayman on Twitter, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Guys, we will see you all soon. Thanks again.